Welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. It's time for another SPFBO 9 finalist review. And this time I am really excited to be telling you about a book that I think is extremely special. When I signed up to be a judge for SPFBO, this is the sort of book I was hoping I would get to read. I've enjoyed my time immensely. I've a lot of really wonderful books that I've gotten to read as a judge here, including Murder at Spindle Manor and The Wickwire Watch. Those are two that really stand out for me. But the one I'm about to tell you about, Hills of Heather and Bone, for me has been an extremely wonderful time. I'm very excited to tell you about this book. It's a standalone by K.E. Andrews, and there will be no spoilers in this review. And I want to just start right off the bat by saying it is a Celtic-inspired story. On the continent of Erigal, there are various types of magic that are linked to the gods. But the Bone Weavers, the magic users that are most in communion with death, are feared and persecuted. Morana, the first person narrator of the story, is a bone weaver hiding and trying to live her life with her husband Percy, whose blood gifts enable him to heal flesh and grow plants. But when the Fealinis, and I do apologize, I don't know Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, or whatever this is based on. I do know Welsh, but that is actually, though a Celtic language, very different. So my pronunciation is going to be way off here anyway, for the most part. But anyway, the Fealinis they're the enforcers, if you will, of Erigal, this island, and they are coming after our two main characters, Morana and her husband Percy. And they have to flee for their freedom and for their lives, along with their hen, Morhenna, who reminds them of their former home and dreams. Hills of Heather and Bone weaves Celtic-inspired creatures and myth, especially Scottish, into a tale that centers around the dichotomies of life and death, beauty and sorrow, love and loss. It's a poignant meditation and a story that is at intervals pulse pounding and cozy, actually. But it is emotionally powerful throughout. It packs in a tremendous punch. And I have to admit that I had some tears at several points in this book. It was an incredibly moving story for me. I experienced this as the easily the most moving and emotional story that I've read for SPFBO 9. Among the many books that I've read, the many very fine tales, this is the one that certainly moved me the most. And it isn't just because of the emotional impact, though, that I feel this is a very high quality story. It's also charmingly intimate in that it's the story, essentially, of Morana and Percy. But at the same time, it's universal in its themes. We all experience life and death. And this is a very profound meditation on what it means to live a life and what it means to be in community. There are just some really wonderful themes here, such as community and friendship, the othering that produces the sort of hatred that you see when a small group, part of the populace, is persecuted by the rest. Acceptance, depression is treated very well in here, in fact, and woven seamlessly into the story. Kindness and love show beautifully in this story, to the point where a lot of those tears that I referenced before, they weren't tears of sorrow always. There were also tears of joy and beauty that I experienced in this story. Now, the characters are wonderful, especially Morana and Percy. They are beautifully realized. The other characters aren't quite as realized, of course, but they're secondary supporting characters, so that would be natural. They serve their purpose beautifully. And there are some really wonderful, I don't want to say with whom, but there are some, because it would be spoilery, but there are some wonderful interactions between the two protagonists and characters that they meet along the way. Some beautiful friendships and relationships that I found incredibly moving. Now, the relationship of Morana and Percy, though, this is the heart of the story. This is what I think really makes this story tick. It is what's behind its success, as I experienced it anyway. It's not a traditional romance. I would not call this a romantasy at all, in the sense that, at least from my relatively ignorant perspective, romantasy is probably usually about two people finding each other and falling in love and that sort of thing. And usually the thing will end when they finally get together. This is a married couple. They're already a married couple. There are some really beautiful romantic elements to their story. And we do also get some really nice flashbacks that give us a kind of the story of them getting together as well. So, and that's a really clever thing I want to say that the author has done here by including these flashbacks. It fleshes out the character somewhat. It gives us some context, and it helps us understand their hopes and their dreams on a deeper level. So beautifully done. And also the fact that this relationship is built on attraction of opposites in many ways, in many respects. And you can tell from the cover itself, she's tall and he's relatively short and small. But those are superficial. What really makes it interesting, I think, is how she is more the melancholy sort, whereas he is very optimistic. The beautiful thing here is how they complete each other and how they grow, not just together, but also from each other. And they feed each other with their strengths in a way that is just so beautiful and compelling. I thoroughly enjoyed this relationship, and it's really, as I said, the heart of this story in so many ways, and what makes it so memorable. It's just a beautiful portrayal of love, and I can't emphasize enough how wonderful I found it. Also, the atmosphere that is realized in here by K.E. Andrews is just brilliant. There's a bleakness to it at the same time that there's a beauty. And there are some moments of just gorgeous lyricism in this story. And the prose as well has some really nice heights to it. I just love the how it portrays this landscape as being something craggy and bleak like the highlands, but at the same time very colorful. And there's a vibrancy. I can almost hear the bagpipes echoing in the valleys off of the mountainsides. Just a really wonderful thing. Now, of course, no book is going to be perfect. There are some minor issues that I have. If you're looking for an action-packed kind of read, the action in here is not the strongest point, frankly. It didn't really matter to me too much as I was reading it because I was thoroughly invested in the emotions and the beauty of the relationships that was unfolding before me. But it's certainly not an action-oriented read. There are lots of moments of tension, however. There's lots of psychological tension in here. So I never for a moment felt bored. This was just a beautiful read for me, very moving, and I was thoroughly invested. I guess my only real nitpick is that I did encounter a number of typos that I feel could be weeded out. This is a story that is just so beautiful. I think it deserves. I would encourage K.E. Andrews to have just one more really good copy editing, just to weed those out because the beauty of this story really deserves to have. And you're never going to get perfect with as far as those typos go. They're like little gremlins, but. I noticed a fair number of them, I would say in the dozens, and a book of this quality, a storytelling of this quality just deserves to be as clean as possible. Really, that's a tiny nitpick though. I just love this story and I can't say enough about it, really. It's sometimes you just read a book that you don't know how to explain how it moved you. I just tried my best, but you don't know how to explain why it moves you the way it does. But this is one that really connected with me emotionally and intellectually as well. I feel like this is a story that will resonate with many people and will stick with them for a long time. So I have to score this like I always do for the SPFBO reads, and I will explain my scoring system. A 1 to 2 is a story that I feel is just so deeply flawed that it probably should be heavily worked on before anyone should think of publishing it. 3 to 4 is also flawed, but I can see some real virtues in there, some really good stuff mixed in with the flaws. A 5 to 6 is a really good book, a very high quality book. 7 to 8 is something that really impresses me. really impresses me. And prior to now, an 8 is the highest score I have given, because a 9 to 10 is a book that I feel like has become one of my very favorites. A book that I would recommend to all sorts of people. A book that, when I'm asked for an example of this, then it might be the first book to come to mind. And Hills of Heather and Bone is indeed one of those books. It is a 9 for me. Just a wonderful read. I hope, if I can urge anyone at all to check out some of the beautiful stories that I've been privileged to read for SPFBO 9, this would be at the front of my list of books that I would recommend for folks, especially if you're in the mood for something that connects you deeply and emotionally and is a wonderful tale of a beautiful relationship. And also a meditation on death and a way of perceiving the beauty of death and how it is an essential part of life, in fact, that it is not an opposite to life so much as a part of it, and that you can't have life without it. And the beauty of our lives rests upon our ultimate mortality in many ways. I loved this story. I urge you to check it out. And that is it for me for now. Until next time.